Not many people consider a plant as a living being until it becomes a problem, growing somewhere where we don't want it. However, without plants, we would not survive. How can we simply walk past these creatures that are so alive and not think of the wonders, the complexity and intelligence that they hold that we cannot even begin to understand? Some plants live to be thousands of years old, curing disease and illness since the beginning of time. They are able to make their own energy from sunlight as their leaves unfold, able to live in any environment, in the desert, in water, on rocks, and without soil, able to withstand even the harshest conditions, from unbearably hot to freezing cold. They have amazing defense without even moving from their spot on the ground. Toxins and chemicals created, the ability to catch and digest other organisms. They are able to communicate with each other without making any noise, able to identify members of their own family from strangers without eyes, and the ability to give their family the nutrients and resources they need. We do not even fully understand what they are capable of, despite being surrounded by plants every day. Not always noticed, but always creeping, digging, reaching, blooming, and thriving. We acknowledge that plants are incredible organisms capable of many things. But how much do we truly care? We destroy their habitats without a second glance. Ecosystems taken over by our cities with our homes, buildings, and roads that stretch across the expanse. We segment land with our roads and highways, habitats lost and degraded due to our careless ways. There is a loss of biological productivity due to pollution, and while these problems are severe, there are only a handful trying to find a solution. Some plants require specific habitats and conditions in order to be able to grow, and when these species are taken away, the number of organisms in that species becomes low. As new species are introduced, they take over the land and are always competing for the same nutrients and energy as the native plants whose presence in the area is fleeting. All of these factors put certain species at risk. What would our world look like if the plants started to die off? We think we might not notice, as we can't interact with them the way we interact with animals. Yet, we would notice. There would be less oxygen produced, less water cleaned and retained by their roots. They are the basis of the entire food chain, which humans build off of for economic gain. As humans produce all sorts of chemical waste, the plants are able to clean up these substances, the CO2 in the air replaced, with life-giving oxygen which we need to survive, turning VOCs into nutrients so they and other soil organisms can thrive. They help prevent global warming, making carbon sinks and keeping unstable atmospheric conditions from forming. They create genetic species and ecosystem diversity, without which we would face adversity. Each plant plays a specific role in interacting and functioning within their homes, and they adapt to disease, droughts, invasive species, and other disturbances by changing the DNA in their chromosomes. Without their roots in the soil, there would be much more erosion, as cities would be washed away by floods or falling away from the shore due to corrosion. As plants die, they return as beneficial nutrients to the soil, and in thousands of years will contribute to the creation of more oil, producing food for all, medicine for at least 3 billion, furniture, textiles, and all natural resources from only seeds. Plants are the base of all of mankind's needs. Yet, not as many of certain species exist in their natural environments, and if their numbers continue to decline, they will become extinct from the world as we know it. We will live in a world devoid of all these organisms, where we will struggle to survive, and the ecosystem will crumble without the presence of all its members. Over the years, we see hundreds of species slipping through our fingertips. American chestnut, small white lady slipper, prairie lupin, golden paintbrush, white bark pine, juniper sedge, spotted wintergreen, slender bush clover, cucumber tree, eastern prickly pear cactus, and wood poppy, to name a few, are all at the risk of going extinct by our hands. So, how do we keep these amazing plants in our lives and world? We need to protect the ecosystem and the land on which these plants live. We can't just take and take and take from their land. At some point, we have to give. We should expand our cities upwards rather than out, so that there is more natural lands for these seeds to travel and sprout. We need to learn more about which species are at risk through outreach and education, so that people will be able to identify and conserve them across the nation. By using methods that are interesting, appealing, and easy to understand, people will be more likely to learn and take a stand. If everyone could see how important these species are, that all of the things in our communities, they are the foundation. They would care more about what would happen if the plants were to go extinct and put more effort into conservation. Professionals could work with landowners to create plans about possible threats, population numbers, and land use. When thinking of the future generations, how this will affect them, and what their world will look like, the solution shouldn't be hard to deduce. So we need people to join together to save the species at risk, so that we don't one day expand our city too far and realize far too late. As the species slip between our fingertips and the world falls into desperation for survival in the hands of fate, then, we don't want then to be the moment we realize our mistake.